Good evening. You are very welcome to the first of our Focus on Arts sessions here at Mary Immaculate College, where we'll be looking at the Bachelor of Arts programme in some detail. So over the course of the next 4 evenings, we're going to look at the various aspects of the programme. We're going to have a chance to hear about the subjects that are offered on the programme, and tonight's session is going to look at a more general overview of the BA programme, and you'll get a chance to hear about the opportunities that present themselves in third year of the off-campus year of the programme, careers options when you've completed the programme, and our quite innovative first year programme, Skills for Study and Work. So to start off today's session, we're going to go over to the Dean of Arts, Professor Michael Breen, who is going to give us a general overview of the programme to get us started. So I'll hand over now to Michael.
Thanks, Rachel, and good evening to all of you looking in. My name is Michael Breen. I'm the Dean of the Faculty of Arts, and I'm going to be talking about the overall programme. So if you see in the next slide, I outlined the course structure. It's a 4-year programme, and in first year you would take 4 subjects and our special module on skills for study and work. And then in second year, you would decide which 2 subjects you're going to take to degree level. And then you work on those 2, and there's an elective in there, and I'll talk about electives in a moment. Our third year is spent off campus or study abroad. And then finally, you continue with your 2 subjects in fourth year, and you write an undergraduate dissertation, which is a capstone piece of work. So that's the 4 years. You start with 4 subjects in first year, then you narrow it down to 2, and you keep them then for degree level. So the next slide. These are the 13 subjects that we offer in the faculty. So as you look at these, you'll see straight away that some of these subjects are quite familiar to you because they arise in the Leaving Certificate programme, and you'll be studying those for your Leaving Cert. But others there are quite new in the sense that you won't have studied them formally, most likely, in the school setting at least. And those are drama, media and communication studies, philosophy, psychology, and theology. So there are subjects in there that are part of first year that are well known to you from your Leaving Cert experience, and there are subjects that are going to be quite different. And one of the things I would strongly urge you to think about is taking a risk with at least one subject that you haven't studied before and see how that fits. Because every year we have students who come to the college and they may have decided, I think I'll take Irish and history for my degree, and sure, I'll throw in English, and sure, I might look at that media and communication stuff as well. And they find at the end of first year they end up doing their degree in media and English because those are the 2 subjects that actually lit their fire. So I would encourage you to really explore the other subjects that are there, because you never know. These are open up a wide range of career possibilities for you in terms of what you're going to do after your time in college. If we move to the next slide, it's critical that the data on this slide is something you're familiar with, no matter what arts program you're thinking of applying to. And the reason is this: we have 13 subjects that we offer in first year. And that's an open choice. You can take whatever grouping you want of those. You take whatever 4 you want. But when you get into second year, there is going to be a constraint on you. No matter what arts program you choose anywhere in the country, you're going to have this constraint that will limit the choices you can actually make. And if you look at the subjects here, if you choose psychology for your degree in second year, then you can take any other subject from the list except German, because psychology and German are grouped together and timetabled together. And if you take English, you can take any subject you want except maths. If you take media, it's any subject you want except geography, and so on down the list. So in making your choice for your degree, you need to be sure that the subjects you're thinking of taking to degree level are available to you as a combination. Otherwise, you're going to find yourself in second year without the possibility of going forward with your chosen grouping. So, for example, If you wanted to become a teacher of English and maths, that's your goal in life, the arts degree in Mary I simply would not suit you because that combination is not available. And that's something I urge you to check no matter where you think about going to college if you're going to do an arts degree. If I come then to our next slide, it brings us back to look at an issue that's of particular relevance in first year. And this is the program that we have we call Skills for Study and Work. You're coming into college, most of you, from traditional Leaving Certificate background, and there's going to be a different focus in the kind of learning that you would do. And one way that I think might be helpful to think about this is that in the Leaving Certificate arrangement, generally speaking, the focus is really on content, that you're expected to assimilate the content that's available, whatever subject you're taking, whether it's biology, maths, physics, English, music, and you're expected to be able to reproduce the answers in the Leaving Cert examination, whatever form it might take. In college, it's a slightly different focus. The content is really important, but far more important from our point of view is your level of understanding. So when we come to exams in a university context, we're really looking for you to exhibit your understanding of the content. It's not just enough to have memorized sample answers. You're going to have to be able to explain how the material fits together. And this particular module is geared towards helping you have the necessary skills to be able to be critically analytical of the material you're studying, how to write it up appropriately, and how to marshal arguments and make those arguments. And that's really important, I suppose, for your future career as well, because that's precisely the kind of skill that makes an arts graduate really desirable for any employer because of the skill sets that are particularly bound up in this particular module. But you'll hear more about that later in this evening's sets of presentations. If we go on then to the next slide, it's really about the electives in second year, because as well as the subjects that you're going to take to degree level, you also have the possibility here of doing an elective. Now, an elective is where, as well as your degree program, you add in a subject of your own choice. So we offer electives in education because so many of our students really want to be teachers, whether primary teachers or secondary teachers, and are hoping to do the professional masters in education at the end of the degree. So we have these two modules in education that really help people in preparing for that PME and in applying for it. We offer modules in entrepreneurship because we have students who are going to be interested possibly in business and want to explore that side of their possible careers. We also offer electives in gender studies, information technology, and our most attractive elective is teaching English as a foreign language. TEFL is really a license to travel worldwide. It is a certification from us that you meet the standard for being a teacher of foreign language in pretty much anywhere in the world. And a lot of our students do that when they take a gap year. They go with the certification and they can go abroad and make their way in the world with that to finance their travels after their degree. It's a very, very popular elective. In addition, of course, as well as these set of electives, you could choose to take a subject from outside of your degree program that's offered in the college. So, for example, you might say, I'm going to do my degree, we'll say, in English and media, and as my elective, I'll take a subject module in philosophy, and that's quite acceptable within the program if that's allowable under the regulations. So you have a wide range of electives from all the modules that are offered, but very specifically, these are a tailored set of modules that are geared towards you and what you're going to do in your future career, and you're the best person to decide what those electives actually are. Our next slide deals with the study abroad options. In third year, our students go abroad for work or for study, or they could stay in Ireland for work. So it's either work experience or study abroad. Now, my preference as Dean is that everybody would go abroad. It's a hugely broadening experience. It's one that really, I suppose, makes a big, big impact on our students. And it says something to an employer that a student was willing to go abroad to break out into that adventure and to study in a foreign university. which is, shows a certain amount of resilience and leadership from our students. So we have two sets of options really in terms of study abroad, and you'll hear more about these in a few moments from one of the other speakers. But essentially, you can go to one of our Erasmus partners across Europe, of whom we have a multitude, and then you have options in other parts of the world, Canada, United States, Australia, and so on. In choosing to go to Europe, you can choose to go and study in an English-speaking environment, where in many of our partner universities, there are modules available in English. But for those of you who are studying languages, it's highly advisable that if you're studying French or German, that you would go to one of the countries where that language is spoken and be able to develop your skills by experiencing teaching through the medium of that language in a country where it's the native language. And that's important ramifications too, if you actually want to be a teacher of languages after your degree. My next slide really talks a little bit about college life. And at the heart of college life is the whole idea of lectures and tutorials. Lectures are large group lectures, and tutorials are small groups where you're expected to be much more engaged and much more interactive with your professors and with your colleagues or your fellow students. And of course, the lectures and tutorials are really backed up by your study. And our expectation is that you would do, or you should do, I should say, 2-hour study for every 1 hour of lecture or tutorial. Now that's quite a commitment, and typically at the beginning of a semester that amount of study isn't put in, but certainly by the time you're getting into the halfway mark and you're looking at the possibility of exams or assignments, you're going to find that you're going to need that 2-hour equivalence for your work. At the heart of those lectures and tutorials and the kind of assignments you'll be doing as you study and engage with the material and the different reading that's going on is really about developing your skills as a critical thinker. And that's really what every arts degree is about. It's aiming to make you a critical thinker, somebody who can take a set of facts, marshal an argument, and come to a conclusion based on evidence. It's evidence-based research. It is really, I suppose, at the core of what we do in our teaching in the arts programme. And I have said on many occasions at the college, I'm saying to you now, if you were to graduate from REI, from our arts programme, and you were not a critical thinker, you have not failed. We would have failed you, because that is what marks out the arts graduate from any other kind of student in the university sector. It's that ability to deal with the material this particular way on a very broad range, irrespective of the actual disciplines that you study. We place a very strong emphasis in the college on your physical, emotional and mental health. Now, the COVID pandemic has really impacted on the experience of student life. And that's because we take your physical health extremely seriously. And our reactions to the COVID pandemic affect the health of others. So that's kind of a critical piece. And it's made life a little more difficult for students. There's no denying that. But thankfully, that's coming to an end now with the arrival of the vaccines. But we also place an equal stress on your emotional and mental health. We know from various reports that about 1 in 4 students will suffer from some kind of mental health or emotional health episode during their time in college. And that can be quite mild. You know, it could be a bad weekend, you're just feeling down. It could be that you're upset over something, whatever it might have been. Or it could be something more serious. It could be a breakup with a boyfriend or a girlfriend. It could be the loss of somebody, one of your friends. It could be the loss of a parent or a grandparent. These can be very impactful events, and they do have an impact on students. We have a terrific reputation in the college for responding to students in need. And if you find that there's something going on in your life for which you need support, you simply come to one of the offices, the arts office, or to one of your lecturers or the support services and tell us. And we will put the supports in place to help you get over the hump and get through your studies and manage things successfully. There's a lot of other supports available to you. We have an academic learning centre. You'll hear about that in a moment as well. We have a medical centre very strong students' union, and we provide counselling and chaplaincy services that are also of great benefit to our students. So next slide, you'll see why would you bother taking a liberal arts degree? The first thing is, of course, is that liberal arts education is not about vocational education. You're not being trained for a specific career. You're acquiring an education that's to make you fit for life, to be an engaged and fruitful citizen. There's a huge range of careers that are open to you, and our careers person will talk in a moment, and you'll hear something about some of those careers. But an arts degree broadens your horizons, it deepens your insights, and it widens your perspectives. It really, I think, challenges you in a variety of different perspectives, not just within the disciplines you're going to study, but across various elements of human growth and potential. And it really helps you achieve that potential as an individual, to flourish as a human being, but also it helps prepare you for the workplace by a set of transferable skills. And those skills, I've already alluded to them, but they're absolutely critical, and they are central to any arts degree programme. We think that we do them in a particularly rich way in Mary I. And of course, the arts degree is a springboard for further education. You can go on and do the professional masters in education for either primary or secondary teaching, or you can go and do an MA or a PhD. And a substantial number of our students every year actually go on to do further studies in the college or elsewhere. Our next slide is about the benefits of why Mary I. I'm extraordinarily proud to lead a staff, both faculty and professional services, who have the student at the heart of all that they do. And I think it's that care for our students that really marks us out as a faculty. You are not just a number to us. You will never just be a number on a page. We will know your name and you will know ours, and we would hope to build a relationship with you over the 4 years. And that relationship will last well after college. Our study abroad destinations are a very rich part of our programme, as are our professionally oriented placements. And if you don't study abroad in your 3rd year, you can go into a work placement, or you can study abroad for 1 term and work placement for 1 term. And it gives you a chance in that work environment to suck it and see, to see is there a good fit with you and a particular kind of work placement. So some of our students, for example, will work in schools for a semester, and it gives them a very good sense of whether education is where they want to spend the rest of their lives or not. Our TEFL elective is a particular attraction. We have quite small group sizes in our tutorials. We were the first 3rd level college in the country to introduce the Academic Learning Centre. It was then called the Learning Support Unit. We're very attractive to employers because of our transferable skills, and the undergraduate dissertation, the capstone work, is proof positive of your skill set that will make you really a real benefit to any employer. So why come to Mary I? It's in our next slide. It's because the quality of the staff, the individual attention we pay to our students, and our numerous support services. And I'll give you 2 examples of that. We had some years ago, we had a student who became ill in their final semester, and we had staff members from 2 departments travel down to that person, substantial distance away, every week with all the materials they needed, do one-on-one work with them, and to ensure they didn't fall behind, and that person graduated with their cohort, even though they weren't able to come on campus because of illness. And some years ago, a student joined us who came from one of the big Dublin universities, who hadn't worked out for them there. They applied to Mary I and came in. And after about 4 weeks, this student bounced into my office. I said, I have to talk to you, I have to talk to you. And I said, well, what's wrong? He said, no, I have to talk to you. I said, is there anything wrong? He said, no, it's great. And I said, what's great? And he said, anytime I've gone into an office here, no one has ever asked me my number. All they want to know is my name. And I thought it was a really strong example of, in a very small way, of why we make a difference to our students. We're not interested in you just being a cipher or just another student. Who you are as an individual matters to us, and you achieving your learning outcomes and flourishing to be the best person you can be really does matter to us as a staff. We have a great reputation for that very, very reason. We've very good facilities, we have a very welcoming community, we're very accessible by road, rail and by air now with Shannon, and Limerick is a very, very vibrant city and it's a wonderful place to live and study. I came here from Trinity almost 24 years ago, and I tell you, I have no regrets. It's a wonderful place to live, and I think that you will enjoy it very much as well. If you need information about the college, you'll see it here on our last slide. You can find us on Facebook, you can find us on the World Wide Web, you can go and get information about the individual subjects from departmental web pages. There will be subject talks available to you online in video format, and you can find the prospectus online as well. So there's a bunch of information there. I urge you to explore it, and it would be a great pleasure to welcome you to the college as students later in this year when the Leaving Cert is done and dusted. Thank you very much for listening. Take care. Bye-bye. I'm going to hand you back now to Rachel, I think. Rachel, it's all yours.
Thanks, Michael. That's great. Well, I hope that overview of the programme gave you a good idea of what studying arts at Mary Immaculate College might be like. Before we go to our next speaker, I just wanted to remind you that there will be a question and answer session at the end of today's presentations. And if you have a question about any aspect of the programme that you heard Michael describe, or any of the next 3 speakers, you can put your question into the Q&A function on Teams, on the live event, and we will do our very best to answer all of your questions at the end. So you don't have to speak yourself, just type it in and we'll do everything for you. Okay, so the next speaker that we're going to hear from is Patricia Casserly, who is our Student Placement Officer. So she is going to talk to you about the off-campus year, so basically the 3rd year of the BA programme. So she's going to talk to you about study abroad options, but also the work placement options. So I'm going to hand over now to Patricia.
Okay, good evening everyone. My name is Patricia Casserly. Thanks Rachel for the introduction, and I'm the Student Placement Officer for the BA students here at Mary Immaculate College. So I'm delighted to have this opportunity to present to you the unique and innovative component of the BA programme, that is the off-campus programme. So for most of you, the off-campus programme will comprise a full year out of your traditional studies or the traditional BA programme, and it will give you an opportunity to avail of practical work placement experience as well as many study abroad options. So it's a time out, it's a time to kind of step aside, you know, have a think about where you're going with your degree programme, where you're going with your career, and see how you might be able to fit in some practical work experience. Try before you buy with certain career paths before going on to do maybe a further 2-year postgraduate programme. So is the programme compulsory? Well, for most of the students, the programme is compulsory, and most of the BA students will be out on placement for the full 3rd year. The one exception is psychology students who are only out for the autumn semester, so just for the period September to December, January, and they're back in Mary I then for the spring semester. All other students on the programme are out for the full academic year. So there is an option. I'll talk to you in a moment about mixing and matching the various options, study abroad and work placements. So it is a compulsory component of the degree programme. The other exception is that if you're a mature student, so if you're over 23 on the January of your entry to the programme, then there is an option to apply for an exemption from the off-campus programme, and this can be done at the start of 2nd year, but we'll explain that process to you as we go along. So you might ask what the benefits of the off-campus programme are. Why does it exist at all? What's the point of it? So I think it's fair to say that graduates of the programme, if they're asked, you know, to highlight a particular aspect of the degree programme, that many of them would pinpoint the off-campus programme element, whether they had the opportunity to study abroad or undertake a work placement or do a combination of both during the 3rd year off-campus programme. I think it's also fair to say that employers really do you know, value our students coming on work placement with them. And, you know, they value the knowledge, the skills and understanding that our students bring on placement. So the off-campus program on the Mary I BA program, the off-campus program element of the BA program differentiates the BA from other BA programs that might be on offer around the country. It gives you time out to, to focus on your career goals, and it gives you valuable experience that you'll have going forward for your CVs and for your own personal and career profiles. Michael spoke about transferable skills, about gaining transferable skills whilst out on work placements, and these are many and varied. You'll have the opportunity, to gain skills such as, communication skills, time management, team building skills, research skills, presentation skills, for example. But it's also an opportunity for you to apply what you've learned in the classroom during first and second year to your real life workplace situation. So Michael mentioned about writing skills, also maybe the skills that you've learned in your TEFL electives, and obviously your language skills for those of you who are going abroad, who are studying a language, French or German. For those of you who will be lucky enough to undertake a study abroad placement or an international placement, it's an opportunity for you to take on new subject areas and new subjects and new modules, as well as broaden and deepen the knowledge of your existing subject areas. Those of you who travel abroad, the opportunities are endless. I'll go into them a little bit more in just a minute, but you'll have the opportunities to enhance your cultural awareness, to enhance your resourcefulness, your maturity, your independence, maybe live away from home for the first time, and to make many new friends. So there are fantastic opportunities to travel, both within your host city or destination, and also beyond. So basically the world is your oyster if you decide to opt for an international placement or placements during your third year off-campus program. Obviously, those of you who are taking a language to degree level, French or German, it's an opportunity for you to study abroad in France, Germany, Austria, or even Belgium, and enhance your language skills through full immersion in that particular language. Those of you also who are doing Gaeilge for your degree, it's also an opportunity to undertake a Gaeilge immersion placement in Ireland in a work placement situation where Irish is the main language of communication. So again, enhancing your Irish language skills. So just to give you a little bit of an idea about what the actual options are, well, broadly speaking, there are 3 different paths or roads you can go down when it comes to the off-campus programme. The first option is to work in Ireland in one of our work placement settings. So over the years, the office and the college have developed connections with a broad network of placement providers in a large variety of economic sectors. So you'll have the opportunity to undertake a practical work placement in a work placement setting at home in Ireland. Those of you who are a little bit more ambitious, maybe you might have done they are a little bit more broad-minded and who want to travel, will have the opportunity to undertake TEFL placements abroad, as well as language assistantships, and there are EU grants available for those placements. The other options then are study abroad placements that Michael would have mentioned. They're further broken down into Erasmus Plus, which is study in Europe. We have over 50 partner universities all over Europe that Mary I has made connections with over the years, and there's a possibility there to study abroad in one of our partner universities. Also non-EU destinations, including North America, Canada, and further afield. The great thing about the option off-campus programme, for those of you who are going to be on off-campus, which will be all of you apart from psychology students for the full academic year, is that there's great opportunities to mix and match your options, your placement options. So because the academic year is broken up into 2 semesters, you'd have the opportunity to combine options. So maybe do 2 separate work placements at home in Ireland, maybe do a work placement in Ireland and a study abroad placement, or maybe do 2 study abroad placements, even maybe do a study abroad placement in Europe and a study abroad placement in the States. So there's great flexibility there and opportunities to combine your options. So some examples of work placement settings in Ireland, those of you who might be doing media as one of your main degree subjects, you'll have the opportunity to undertake work placements in broadcasting organisations such as local radio stations, print media with local newspapers or online publications. Other areas that media students might be interested in would include maybe marketing or corporate communications, and PR, public relations, is another area of interest for media students. And over the years, we've built up relationships with various organisations that host media students on placement for their off-campus programme. Many of you will have an idea in your heads that you want to go on and become teachers down the line, whether it be primary or secondary. And we have developed many connections with mainstream schools, primary and secondary, throughout the country, as well as kind of the non-mainstream education settings like the school completion programs, which would involve working with students from disadvantaged backgrounds. Similarly with youth services and with say the Learning Hub here in Limerick. We also have connections with various VECs and adult education, the adult education sector, as well as with some special needs schools, which may be of interest to some of you. Other areas where students go on placement will include public sector organisations such as county councils, chambers of commerce, local enterprise offices. We have placements in higher education, museums, libraries, heritage centres, tourism, etc. For psychology students who will be out on placement for the first semester, there are a broad range of opportunities in areas such as special education, working in the area of education disadvantage, community care, and various charitable organisations. So there's plenty of opportunities there for psychology students to get some good practical experience relevant to your degree. Also Gaeilge students, there's a broad range of options there for students of Gaeilge to work in an Irish language immersion environment. Students of Gaeilge have worked as Kinnery in all Irish language boarding schools such as Coláiste na Rinne down in Ring in Waterford. Irish language students also go on placement to Gaeilge Scoilna and to various Irish language organisations such as Conradh na Gaeilge. Also there's various opportunities for students of Gaeilge and media to work in areas like Writing na Gaeltachta, Ross and Roon, Nematun Tuarantha, which is down in Ring in the Waterford Gaeltacht. So there are so many there's such a broad range of opportunities for students to undertake work placements in Ireland. And again, as I said, you can combine your placements. You can do two separate placements for one for the first semester and one for the second semester if you wanted to gain some experience in two different avenues. So say, for example, you're thinking about teaching as a career, but you're not sure whether you want to go down the primary or the secondary route. You'd have an opportunity maybe to undertake placement in a primary school setting for one semester, a secondary school setting for another semester, or another type of education setting, such as a school completion programme. Equally, if you're not sure whether you want to do a media placement or a career in media or education, you could do a media placement and maybe an education placement for the other semester. So there's plenty of opportunities and plenty of flexibility there when it comes to work placement settings. For students who are thinking about working abroad, if you've completed the TEFL electives in second year, you will have the various qualifications and knowledge available to you in order to undertake a full academic year TEFL placement. We have connections with private language schools, mainly in Spain, in places such as Asturias, Segovia and Zaragoza in Spain. And they are private language schools where our students who have taken the TEFL electives undertake full academic year TEFL placements where they're actually responsible for teaching English in the classroom. So it's proper classroom contact experience in an educational context. The other option for students maybe who are interested in education placements abroad would include the language assistantship programme, which is where students are assigned to public or state schools in Austria, France, Germany and Spain, where you work as a language assistant. So you assist the main English teacher within the classroom context and assist with conversation, with English conversation, and bring aspects of Irish life to the classroom abroad. The other great thing about working abroad on these kinds of placements is that not only do you get a salary or a stipend, a monthly salary or a stipend, but you can also avail of the Erasmus Plus grant funding that's available from the European Commission. So that's an additional in around €300 per month on top of your salary. So payment wise, they financially those placements work out quite well for students. So there are so many other options then for students if you're thinking about study abroad. As I mentioned, study abroad is broken down into Erasmus Plus study abroad, which is studying under the Erasmus programme for which there's funding available in one of our European partner universities. So over the years, we've set up connections with partner universities in over 50 different universities all over Europe, and they're generally assigned to a particular subject area. So The options are to go for 1 semester or a full academic year. So you can spend a full academic year in an Erasmus placement or just go for the 1 semester. And the important thing to say about Erasmus or studying in Europe is that it's not just for students of languages. There are lots of opportunities in Europe for non-language students to study abroad. So yeah, if you're doing French, you'll have opportunities to study in throughout the length and breadth of France. We have connections in places like Clermont-Ferrand, Toulouse, Aix-Marseille, Reims, Rennes, Nantes, so all over France. If you're studying German, you'll have the opportunity to study in Germany in Augsburg, Bamberg, Jena, Koblenz and Eichstätt will be the main partner universities in Germany. We also have some connections in Austria, in Graz and Innsbruck, and also in Freiburg in Switzerland. But just to give you an example, like say for example you're doing English and you're not for your degree and you're not doing a language, you'll have an opportunity to study in one of our partner universities in Europe where we have connections with their English literature departments. So say for example you can go to Aarhus in Denmark for a semester or a full academic year and study English there, or you could even go to Spain without having any Spanish and study through the medium of English in universities like Universidad de Huelva or Universidad de Almería, which are both in Spain. And we also have connections for students of English to go to Sweden and France and elsewhere. Some examples of students where students of media can study in Europe would include Kaunas, which is in Lithuania, Łódź in Poland, and we also have 2 connections in Sweden for students of media in Sundsvall and in Växjö. Okay. So moving on then to the non-EU study abroad options, there are, like the world is your oyster with the non-EU study abroad options. They're available also for one semester for the full academic year. There are opportunities for students of all subject areas to study abroad outside of Europe. Destinations include, Michael would have mentioned, we have connections, lots of connections in North America, again from the West Coast to the East Coast. We have partner universities in Boston, Chicago, Denver, California, New York, Texas, even places like Minnesota. And so over the years, again, we would have built up connections with those partner universities and accepted students in from there, as well as sending Mary I students out. So that means that you're not eligible to pay fees to the North American University. You pay your fees to Mary I as normal, and you go on your exchange then to North America during your off-campus programme. If you're thinking about even further afield than in North America, we have connections in Australia. The 3 main centres there would be Brisbane, Melbourne and Sydney, mainly with the Australian Catholic University and those centres. And then further afield again, we also have partner universities in Canada, South America, China, Japan, Korea, and further afield. So if you want to find out a little bit more about the various study abroad options, whether it be Erasmus or non-EU, you can check out the International Office's webpage, as they're responsible for providing support and processing applications for students during 3rd year who are looking at going on a study abroad semester or year. So how does the off-campus programme work then? So the support and knowledge and experience of the staff of the placement office is available to you for your off-campus programme. So normally we start the planning process around the start of year 2. So there's a series of off-campus programme presentations, weekly presentations, where we outline your options and the processes to you. And we also endeavour to meet with all second year students on an individual basis, where we discuss your individual needs and requirements. All work placements are approved and organised through the placement office, and as I said, mentioned then, the International Office then processes the study abroad applications. So the support of the offices are available to you, and we have many years of experience between us, and we'll be able to advise you accordingly if you're unsure about what to do for your off-campus programme, and indeed meet with you individually. For further information, I've left our contact details there. So my own name is Patricia Casserly, as I mentioned, and I'm available on email if you have any further questions, or you can ask them during the Q&A session at the end of this particular information programme. My colleague Fiona Noonan's details are there as well. So we'd be delighted to help you if you wanted to drop us an email at some stage. I hope that I've given you a good overview of the off-campus programme. I hope that you understand the importance of the programme and the importance of putting a bit of thought and research and investigation into what you'd like to do for your off-campus programme, and that you'll use the resources that are available to you and take ownership of the programme, and that you'll contact us if you have any other questions. So in the meantime, best of luck, and I do hope that perhaps I'll get to meet some of you in person in the corridors of Mary I in the not too distant future.
That's great. Thank you so much, Patricia, for that very in-depth look at the placement year. So before we head over to our next speaker, I just wanted to say I can see some questions are coming in on the Q&A section, and I'd encourage you to use that opportunity this evening to ask any questions that you may have about the programme. And I promise those of you that have asked questions, I will address all of them at the end, and I will call on Michael or Patricia, whoever is most appropriate, to answer your questions. So you will hopefully get the answers to your questions this evening. So please do keep the questions coming in. Just to remind you as well that we have 3 other sessions this week. So tomorrow, Tuesday, Wednesday and Thursday, you will have the opportunity on those evenings to hear about the specific subjects that are taught as part of the BA degree, and those sessions will give you an opportunity to ask more subject-specific questions to the lecturers who are involved in teaching those subjects. So before we finish this evening, I'll remind you which subjects are going to take place on which of those evenings. So now I'm going to hand over to our next speaker, who is James Binchy. Dr. James Binchy is part of our Academic Learning Centre, and he's going to talk to you now about our first year programme, Skills for Study and Work. So I'll hand over now to James.
Thanks, Rachel. Hello. As you can see there, my name is James, and I'm here to talk to you about our modules for skills for study and work. I suppose, very briefly, if you want to think about it, we're kind of logical people, and we tend to say what we mean in this institution. So when we say we're going to give you a module on skills for study and work, what that means is we're going to try and give you some of the skills that you need to do well in the college and to do well in the institution, and also those skills to be transferable then into a work situation. Okay, so we have 2 modules. They happen, one is before Christmas and one is after Christmas. They last the whole academic year for first year, and what we do is we look at the skills that you might need to do well in college, and that will help you. Generally what happens for students is that when they come to college, they find that, well, first of all, it tends to be a very exciting time and everything is going on and life is good and all that. But at the same time, there's an academic side of things, and sometimes that can be a bit confusing or a bit difficult, because sometimes you might be given an assignment and you're told you have to do this in a few weeks' time, but you mightn't be sure exactly what that means or what that entails or what's the best way about doing well in this or what you should do and that kind of stuff. So these are the types of things that we try and teach you throughout the course of the semesters, and we try and do them in a way that follows the sort of rhythm of the college, so that as you're doing your work and your essays, you're also coming to class with us and learning about the stuff that you could be doing to help with that work and that essay. And then we're also there to answer any questions you might have or things that are coming up and that kind of stuff. Okay, so as I've said here, it's divided into 2 sections, number 1 and number 2. One is before Christmas and one is after Christmas. On the next slide, what I have is just a very brief few words about what's going to happen in the first semester. So this is based about when you actually come to college. It starts in your first week and then it goes for the whole semester every week. And what we like to do is start off with, we have 2 parts for the module. We have an IT part and a writing part. And in the IT part, the first thing you will learn to do is how to use the IT systems within the college, how to use the learning environments, how to use the different digital storage environments, all the different things you need to actually engage with the college. And not just in COVID times, but in non-COVID times as well. There's a lot of stuff that has to be done through information technology. So that's the first set of things you'll learn. But as you're in the college and doing your other subjects, what will happen is you start to get assignments. More than likely, those assignments are going to be essays. So what we try and do is teach you what you can do to do well in those essays and try and explain what the what the lecturers will expect from you within those assignments, so how you can best go about doing your work. So, for example, after about 3 or 4 weeks in college, you might be asked to write a 1,500 word or a 2,000 word essay, and you'll be told to have that submitted in 3 weeks' time. What we'll do is we'll look at the process that you can go through to actually best achieve that. So how do you go about doing your readings? How do you decide what you're going to include? What critical thinking skills will be necessary to create a good essay? When you have your ideas, how do you go about forming them into an argument then that is going to get you better marks? How do you go about answering the question? If you've read, this is a major change from second level to third level, is that when you've read stuff and you want to include the work of others in your own writing, you have to do a whole process of referencing. So we'll teach you exactly how to do that step by step. What we do is we will do this stuff in a kind of a general large group environment for parts, but the majority of the work is done in a small group setting where you have a chance to discuss it with your peers and with me, or in the IT section with an IT person, and you'll actually be at a computer doing the work. So that should help for that. So when you arrive in college for the first semester, sometimes it can be a bit frightening when you're asked to do this and submit this assignment, and these grades are going to be submitted to the college. So people tend to take it seriously. Our job is to explain to you and try and teach you the best way about going around that, so you can get the best results for yourself, so that your degree is going to be a better degree at the end of it in terms of your grades and all that, but also you're learning a lot of skills that are going to be transferable into other situations into the future. So that's in the first semester. Then if we move on to the next slide, we have a little bit about the second semester, because in the second semester, we don't focus so much on the writing. We do a little bit of it, but mostly we're focused on different ways of doing research in the arts disciplines, because every subject and every area has different ways of looking at the world and different ways of doing research into the world. And if you're going to understand the different material that you're learning in all your subjects, it's important to know where that information comes from and how the people you're reading about and learning about, how they reach the conclusions they have reached. And if you're going to criticize what somebody is saying, or you'd like to look at alternative ways of looking at things, one way of doing that is looking at the methodologies they've used to come to those conclusions. So we start to look then at research in the art subjects, and like I said, it's very varied. What we try and do for this part of it is we try to do it in a practical way as well as a theoretical way, so that in the actual classes you'll get to look at real pieces of research and start to analyze them. And actually in some classes we will do mini research projects, so you get to practice doing the research, and that helps you different ways of doing it. So for example, in some subjects, interviews are a very useful way of getting information, and that informs the way we sort of think about things and that sort of stuff. So in classes for that, you will actually get to interview somebody as if it were a research project, and then from that practical experience, you can look at the sort of positives and negatives of doing interviews for research purposes. And a very different way of getting information would be to look at numbers and quantitative data and things like that. Something we see all the time nowadays in terms of our COVID numbers every week, and is it this way or is it that way, and what's counted. So one of the things we get to do in the class is to take a set of numbers and to look at them in different ways, all the time trying to figure out what they might tell us and how we could use these in a research or an academic setting. And At the same time in this semester, you will be using a computer practical lab as well to help you to see how we can use IT resources to help benefit the research process as well. Okay, and then in my final slide, I'm just going to do a very brief thing here about how the modules actually look from your perspective if you're in college next September in Mary I. You would have one lecture every week on either writing or the research element, depending on the semester. And that tends to be in, again, this would depend on COVID situations and things like that, whether it's going to be, but it tends to be in a large group setting, and it's a way of just passing information to you quite quickly. And it's the basis for the next 2 hours of the week, which are a practical session in both either writing or research or in IT. And in, say, for example, the practical writing session, if you came into my class next September for practical writing, what we would do is you would have had the lecture beforehand, so you have some information about, okay, this is what we would do if you wanted to write an argument in an academic setting. This is how we go about constructing our opening paragraph and the best way of getting marks. So you've done that already in your lecture situation. Then when we come into the practical class, what we'll actually do then is we'll set about coming up with a topic that everybody can write on. You'll actually go and write your introductory paragraph to that topic. Then as you're writing, I'll be in the class, it'll be in a small group situation. So if you have any questions, you can ask me then, oh, should I do this, or is it a good idea to do that, or how about doing this, how does that look to a lecture, etc. And then what we would do then is, after we've done that, we might look at something like swapping those writing with your peers. Obviously, if you're going to swap something with your peers, I'd have warned you before you started writing, because obviously for fairness and all that. And then you might get to read somebody else's and give comments back to them about, maybe if you're actually doing an essay, this might be a good way to do it, but this part here is very nice. You might keep that for your essays. It would look good if you did this, etc. So it's a very practical, hands-on approach. And the same would happen in the research setting. And you would also have one practical hour of IT every week, where you would actually sit at the computer. You'd have your own PC in the room. You would have the teacher there, and they will be showing you, this is what you need to do to use this software to submit your essay. This is what you need to do to have this part here of it done, etc. And this is how you do it. And you get to ask them the questions and all that. So it's a very practical set of modules that tries to give you the skills that will help you to do well throughout the 4 years of your college experience, and also skills that you can bring with you as you go forward into a working career as well. So if you have any further questions on skills for study and work, please submit them into the question and answer, and I'll do my best to answer them for you. Thanks very much, and I'll hand back to Rachel now.
That's great. Thank you very much, James, for that presentation. So before we go to our final speaker of this evening, I just want to remind you again, as James said, this is your opportunity to ask questions about the programme, any queries that you may have had about studying at Mary Immaculate College. Now is your opportunity to ask those questions. So please do use the question function in today's session, and we'll do our very best to answer your questions. So our final speaker of the evening is Maeve Sullivan, who is our Careers Officer, and I'm going to pass over now to Maeve. And when Maeve has finished speaking, we will then get on to the question and answers, and hopefully we will be able to give you a better idea of what the Bachelor of Arts at Mary Immaculate College entails. So I'm going to pass over now to Maeve.
Thanks very much, Rachel. Good evening, everybody, and firstly, thank you for your interest in Mary I and the BA programme in particular. It was interesting to hear the presentations of my colleagues and realising that many of the messages or the slides I'm going to show you this evening actually have a lot of commonality with the information that was provided by my colleagues. I suppose it's good to think that we're all singing from the same hymn sheet, even though we're coming at or looking at the degree from slightly different perspectives. So on my first slide, I just want to very briefly outline what the Career Service does for students of Mary I. In essence, we're responsible for providing information and guidance to undergraduate students and recent graduates of the college in respect of matters such as subject choice, postgraduate study and career planning matters. So that covers everything from deciding what subjects to do in first year to deciding what subjects to do for your degree, feeding in maybe to the placement office and what you might do for your placement and how that follows through and links through to decisions you may make down the line in respect of postgraduate study and career decisions. Just on the next slide in a little more depth, some of the supports that we provide include group careers information seminars, so that's where information would be provided to final year students, information that's general in nature and generic, but we do recognise then that students may have more specific queries or may require some more personalised or confidential careers advice that relates to their particular situation, be it their personal circumstances, financial circumstances, academic circumstances, different issues that may be feeding into their decision-making process. So it's very important to emphasise that that service is, of course, confidential and it's delivered on a one-to-one basis as required. And we provide a lot of assistance with postgraduate study applications. That's everything from filling out application forms on time by the deadline, writing personal statements, securing referees in support of applications, as well as providing assistance with employment applications. That could be everything from how do I make contact with a particular organisation to how do I write a letter of application that will be attractive to a prospective employer, as well as how do I prepare my CV, how do I tailor my CV for different employers, as well as how do I perform well at interviews. So that's a big part of the role, is a lot of interview coaching for students and recent graduates so that they can get on that career ladder, and then as they develop those skills, they can use those skills themselves and they no longer need the level of support they may require in final year or in the first couple of years of their careers. So on to the next slide, I think this echoes maybe what Michael and Rachel, the messages they've been emphasising, but in terms of the BA, it's very much a broad-based qualification. As Michael said, it's a non-vocational qualification, but the beauty of that is that it provides an opportunity for students to gain a very broad education and to explore a lot of different subject areas and develop a range of skills that are very attractive to prospective employers in the future. In essence, with the BA, students choose 4 subjects in year 1, as you now know, and then choose to pursue 2 subjects to degree level. Regardless of what subjects students choose, either in first year or further down the line, I really do believe it's so important that students make their decisions based on what subjects they think they will enjoy and based on the subjects that they think they have an aptitude for and an interest in. So rather than thinking, well, what subjects maybe make me more employable, or what subjects, you know, is the marketplace looking for, fundamentally students should be making the decisions based on what they enjoy and what they have an interest in. So that's really, really important. On the next slide, you'll see the skills that are looked for by employers. So in addition, a lot of employers do look for a lot of subject knowledge. So be it that I'm looking for a geography graduate or a media graduate, of course I'm looking for strong geographical skills or strong media skills, or I'm looking for an English graduate who has highly developed language skills and communication skills. But there are certain generic skills that are looked for by employers and that are very highly valued, and maybe in some ways just as highly valued as the knowledge students and graduates would gain from their actual degree subjects. And these are the skills that are also developed by arts graduates. So arts graduates develop very strong skill sets in decision making, in problem solving, in having the capacity to work as part of a team, in terms of their communication skills, be it their oral communication, their written communication, and their digital communication nowadays, which is increasingly important, as well as an ability to multitask, to be flexible, to work on their own initiative, to work under pressure. They're all skills a student will develop over the course of their degree by virtue of attending classes, doing project work with others, maybe producing a significant independent piece of work such as a dissertation. And it's important they're able to articulate those skills to prospective employers. So it's important not to underestimate the skills you do develop throughout your degree. And it's important not to underestimate how valued they are by employers, and it's important to articulate them in your interview or on your CV or in your letter of application. If we just move on to the next slide, which looks at some of the career paths, and I suppose some of the more traditional career paths you will all be very familiar with. Indeed, some of you may have travelled this road or these types of roads yourselves. A very popular option for our graduates is teaching and academia. The public service is a very traditional employer of arts graduates as well. A lot of our graduates, because of our strong media programme, will enter the worlds of media and journalism. Many of our creative graduates will enter the worlds of heritage, arts and culture. Students may also choose to pursue further study in areas such as law, or maybe they want to specialise and develop their language skills in a field such as translation or interpreting. So they're the very kind of traditional, well-known career paths for an arts graduate. But if we move on to the next slide, as the economy has changed, we see some newer career paths emerging for arts graduates. Because students can do a module in entrepreneurship in second year, we have seen students or graduates who are maybe interested in setting up their own business down the line, who have that strong innovative flair and want to do it themselves. But also many graduates have moved into the world of things like HR, human resource management, sales, marketing, business, banking and finance. Maybe some graduates have strong technical skill set and move into ICT or data analytics. And with language skills being in such high demand, both in teaching but further afield in with businesses that have maybe an export component or an international element to their business, or increasingly with the EU institutions where fluency in 3 European languages is an absolutely huge selling point, and that includes Gaeilge, which has recently become an official language of the EU. So there's huge opportunities there for highly motivated language graduates. If we just move on there to my next slide, just in summary, some reminders. I think you've heard a lot of these messages from my colleagues, but I think they're important, so they bear repeating. We encourage students to be as open-minded and as flexible as they can with regard to their year one and their degree subject choices. So oftentimes we find students may find a subject isn't quite as appealing or as interesting as they thought it might be, or they may find they're not as good at it as they thought they might be, or they find it's very different from what they learned in school. But equally, what's lovely to hear is that a lot of students take on maybe a subject they're not sure about, and it absolutely floats their boat and they absolutely love it and want to take it to degree. So it is important just to give yourself as much flexibility as you can in year one, and to not be too set in stone with regard to your future choices, to give each subject a chance to blossom and a chance for you to engage with that subject fully before making your degree subject choices. I would also recommend you choose your subjects, like I said earlier, based on your interest and your aptitude for those subjects, because 4 years is a long time to spend in college, and it's a long time to spend engaged with your subjects, and it is likely that you'll be more motivated, more engaged, and on a very practical level, it's likely you will do better and achieve better grades and achieve a better degree class if you're studying subjects that you're genuinely passionate about. So that's one important reminder with regard to your subject choice. Another important reminder on our next slide is to be very open-minded with regard to off-campus options in year 3. It's really important, as Patricia would have said, to challenge yourself and push yourself outside your comfort zone, whatever that may be. It may be doing a work placement in Ireland, but it may be, you know, I'll challenge myself to move out of home for a semester. It may be an opportunity to work abroad or study abroad and develop your own sense of independence and self-confidence. And I suppose it's really important to see year 3 as an opportunity to add value to your CV, as well as clarify possible future career paths for yourself. And, you know, the placement is very highly valued by postgraduate study providers and by employers, because it shows a certain mindset, a certain level of confidence that develops over the course of your degree, and that's something that is very valued. It's also important when you reach maybe 4th year and you're starting to give serious consideration to your possible future career and future postgraduate study paths. Again, it's important to be open-minded in this regard, because our plans and our preferences and our circumstances all change as we get older and as we experience new things. And I can certainly speak from first-hand experience in that regard, having been a BA graduate of Mary I myself, and having done the traditional route of a HDip into secondary teaching, and then finding maybe more of a passion for you know, kind of training and HR and careers in that area. So I'm doing a completely different master's from what I thought I would do when I entered college day one. So I can certainly see how plans change really as we move through life. So it's just important maybe to approach things with an open mind, especially at this stage. So I'm happy to answer any questions if I can during the Q&A. I'm also happy if anyone wishes to contact me for further information. I'm contactable on email, and I hope you all stay safe and well during level 5, and thank you for your attention. I'll hand back to Rachel.
Thanks, Maeve. Thanks for that presentation. And just to remind everyone that all of the contact details for the people that you've heard speaking tonight are available, of course, on the college website. And of course, you can contact the Arts Faculty Office, where I am based, by emailing artsoffice@mic.ul.ie. So all of those details on the college website. We're going to head over now and to our question and answer portion of this information session. And some questions have come in today, so I'm going to go down through the questions one by one. We're going to do our very best to give you as comprehensive an answer as we possibly can. And if you still have questions and you haven't had a chance to type them in, now is your chance to do so. And then at the end of the session, I'm going to tell you about our subject information sessions, which take place over the next 3 evenings, and you'll be able then to see what evenings the subjects that you are interested in when their information session is taking place. So I'm going to start off with our first question, and it's a very good question, and it's one that we get asked quite a lot, which is, why would you choose the Mary Immaculate College Arts degree over the UL equivalent? So I was going to answer this one myself, but I'm actually going to kick it over to the Dean and just see what Michael might say first.
Two primary reasons you would choose Mary I. The first is the quality of the teaching here, and the second is the care of the student. We're a small college. We know you and you'll know us by name, and I think that makes an extraordinary difference when you're doing a degree. You'll have a terrific sense of belonging, you know everyone around you, but you'll be known and you'll be challenged and you'll be pushed to the full extent to achieving your potential.
Yeah, I think that's two very important points. And if I could just add to that by saying there are certain subject-specific reasons why you might choose Mary I's arts degree over UL's. For example, if you're interested in a career in psychology and the arts degree in Mary I is professionally accredited by the Psychological Society of Ireland, and psychology on the arts degree in UL is not. Now that is a very practical consideration. It means that if you want to go on to postgraduate study in psychology, which most people would have to do in order to pursue a career in that area, if you do not have an accredited degree, you would have to do a qualifying postgraduate program before you would gain access to whatever master's or postgrad program that you'd be interested in. So you'd have to do a qualifying program after you graduated if you have not completed an accredited degree program in psychology. So Mary I graduates don't have that problem. They are accredited, so when they graduate, they can apply directly for the master's or whatever program it is that they wish. And it may sound like a very small point, but just like with the PME, the places on those qualifying programs for psychology graduates are very limited. So you may not get it the first time around, which means that you've got to amuse yourself or hang around or find an alternative to do for 12 months while you wait for a place to become available. So it's just something to bear in mind. A couple of other points why you might choose Mary I over UL. The biggest one I can think of straight away is an awful lot of you are probably thinking about teaching. And in terms of reputation, there is no better institution in the country with its reputation in terms of teaching. So that is it can actually give you a slight advantage on your CV when they see that your degree is from Mary Immaculate College. Rightly or wrongly, that's just the reputation that the college has. We're known as being excellent in the field of education. Also, just as Michael said, as a small college, I won't say there's no competition for limited resources. Of course, there are limited resources in certain areas, but there is less competition. What I mean by that is, take placement, for example. In large universities, you don't often get, or you get lesser opportunities to meet one-on-one with placement officers, to tell them about your preferences, where you'd like to go, the kind of placement you'd like to do. In Mary Immaculate College, you will absolutely get those opportunities. So sometimes going to a smaller institution can be of benefit to you because you have probably a better chance at availing at opportunities that present themselves. Okay. So I hope that gives you a good idea. At the end of the day, it'll come down to personal choice. If you like the feel of a smaller college, if you like that personal touch, then of course MIC is probably going to be the one for you. But maybe you like going to a big institution where there's a wide variety of people to meet. And again, it'll come down to personal choice. And the next question that has come in is about our TEFL elective. Is there a limited number of places on the TEFL elective? So I can answer that myself. We administer the places through the Arts Faculty Office. Yes, there are a limited amount of places. It's currently limited to 100 places. Main reason for that is resources. We only have so many resources to go around. So 100 places, it is limited. At the moment, preference is given to students of English and other languages. So which kind of makes logical sense when you think about it. If you're interested in languages, you're interested in language acquisition, and basically that's what TEFL is. So it's teaching English as a foreign language. So preference is given to students of English and languages for those 100 places in TEFL. Okay, so the next question I'm going to hand over to Maeve. It is there an arts course you would suggest that would benefit a career in the Gardaí?
Just say that for me again, Rachel. Sorry.
Is there an arts course you would suggest that would benefit a career in the Gardaí? So I'm reading it as, is there maybe certain subjects in arts that you would think would be better for somebody who wants to go into line of work in the Gardaí after they graduate?
Okay, well, we have had a number of our graduates go on to become Gardaí. I haven't met any of them yet, thanks be to God. Maybe we'll meet them on the checkpoints. I suppose Gaeilge is an obvious subject choice, that being very useful in doing business and in terms of maybe working in the Gaeltacht area or an Irish speaking area in the future. I think English is a very positive subject choice for the Gardaí in terms of enhancing your communication skills, your ability to teamwork and interact with others. I think in terms of maybe having a very logical mindset and an analytical approach, I could certainly see maths being useful in pursuing that type of career. But I really think there's no set subject choice. Again, it's back to my slides where it's all about the skills you develop, and in a lot of ways you develop those skills regardless of your subject choice. So I would see any of the subject combinations really being relevant in some way, but I suppose there are some standout ones like the Gaeilge, the English, the maths would definitely be useful.
That's great. Thanks, Maeve. Next question I'm going to go to is for you, Patricia. It is, if I was to stay in Ireland and work in a primary school in my 3rd year, would I get paid?
Hi, Rachel, that's a really good question. Generally speaking, school placements are unpaid. It would be a bonus if a placement in a school was paid. Certain primary school principals are able to give students a small allowance or a stipend just to maybe cover costs like lunches, travel to and from work and that. But generally speaking, primary school placements would be unpaid. So don't assume you will get paid in a primary school setting. More likely to be unpaid, I imagine. But then the hours would be school hours, 9 to half 2, 9 to 3. So what I find is that many of the students who are on their off-campus programme, they hold on to their weekend jobs, so they have that part-time work to kind of finance them as well as doing their placement. I mean, obviously we don't want to see anybody working 7 days a week, but, needs must. So, I certainly wouldn't assume you would be paid.
Yeah, okay, that's great. Thanks, Patricia. I have a question now for James. Would you need a certain level of computer knowledge before you come to college? I think they're referring to the IT component in particular of the Skills for Study and Work programme.
Hi, Rachel. No, you wouldn't need any computer knowledge before you come to college. We will go through everything that you will need to be able to do in order to succeed at college. And if somebody has, in their opinion, very poor computer skills and is frightened of machines and frightened of using a mouse or using the on button even, we will run extra classes for people and we'll provide support for our students to make sure that they are able to do what they need to be able to do on a computer to succeed at college. So it's highly unlikely today that somebody has never seen a computer, but if you had never seen a computer, you could still enter the arts program in Mary Immaculate College, and we will ensure that you have the skills to succeed in college on the computers. I think that answers the question. Well, I hope it does.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you, James. And just another example of how supportive Mary I can be. This question is one that we get asked quite a lot as well. When applying to the CAO, I wasn't asked to specify my subject choices. When or how will my subject choices be submitted to the university? So the beauty of the arts degree at Mary Immaculate College is that you do not have to select your subjects in advance. You can come to Mary I to do the BA degree. You can try out all of the subjects if you wish for the first week or 2 and then make your decision. We ask students to select by the end of week 1. There are 4 subjects that they think they'd like to study for their degree, for their first year of their degree, but we allow them an extra week or so to change their mind. So what we do, as Michael said when he gave his presentation, we give you the opportunity to try before you buy. So you can actually attend the lectures, you can go along to the classes, you can speak to the other students and to the lecturers before you have to make that final decision. I think that covers that. So it's actually one of the nice parts of the BA in MIC is that you don't have to select your subjects in advance. Next question is also about a career, Maeve. So it is, what subjects are required in MIC to pursue a career as a primary school teacher?
Okay, so for primary teaching, so that it's possible to become a primary teacher post-graduation by doing the 2-year PME in primary teaching. And that's offered at Mary I, it's offered at DCU, Marino in Dublin, Freble in Maynooth, as well as at Hibernia College. And the minimum entry requirements are set by the DES, the Department of Education, and they require minimum Leaving Cert grades in English, Maths and Gaeilge. If you don't have the minimum grades, I'm not going to tell you them off the top of my head in case I make a mistake, but they are available on the website. If you, for example, don't have the required grade in maths, it may be a good idea to take maths in first year arts, because a pass in a first art subject, English, maths or Irish, will be accepted in lieu of the Leaving Cert. But beyond that, I again come back to maybe Michael's point and come back to the point on my slides. You know, some students can have in their head, oh, I better pick a subject that will be quote, useful for primary teaching. So I'll do a degree in maths even though I have no mathematical aptitude or little mathematical aptitude. And it's likely that you're going to struggle through that subject and you're not going to enjoy your college experience. So again, I'm back to being a firm believer in doing what you enjoy. Like if you do media for your degree, that's very relevant to primary teaching. You know, there's a huge emphasis on digital literacy, and you know, students can use the skills they've developed in studying media in a primary classroom. If you do a modern language, that can be very useful to primary teaching if you have the opportunity to teach that and share that passion for another culture with your pupils. So beyond meeting the minimum entry requirements of Gaeilge, maths and English, and maybe choosing one of those subjects in first year, or one or more of those subjects in first year, to meet the minimum entry requirements if you haven't met them via Leaving Cert. Beyond that, I think it's do what you enjoy.
Okay, thanks, Maeve. And if I could just add to that as well, for those of you who may be thinking that you can satisfy the minimum entry requirements for primary school teaching through first year subjects, so you don't have the Irish, the honours Irish, you think I'll do first year Irish. Just bear in mind that first year Irish at third level is a step up from second level. So it will be difficult, I won't lie, it will be difficult, and you have to pass. So you have to pass your modules in first year, regardless of whether you're going to take them to your degree level or not. You must pass all of your modules in first year in order to progress. So if you're taking a subject that you find particularly difficult or you don't have a natural aptitude for, you may find that more difficult than if you had chosen another subject. And the other thing to bear in mind is that if you are looking at primary school teaching, after completing the BA degree, you have to apply for a place on the PME, which is highly competitive, and you need a very good level of a degree in order to get a place on the PME. So if you have a subject, or you've chosen a subject for which you don't have a natural aptitude or you don't enjoy as much, it's going to be more difficult logically for you to achieve the highest grades you possibly could in that subject. Whereas if you chose a different subject, as Maeve has suggested, that you really like, that you really have an interest in, you're more likely to perform better in that subject. And as a result, as a knock-on, probably going to graduate with a better class of degree, which in turn gives you a better shot at a place in the PME. So all the pieces have to fit together. It's not just about the end goal. It's not just about primary school teaching. You need to get there first. And it's a long 4 years between when you start college and when you finish. And also, just to tie in what Maeve said as well, you may change your mind. So what we want at 17 or 18 is not always the same as what we want at 22 or 32 or 42. I'm speaking on behalf of others now, not me, but you know what I mean? You change your mind as you get older, so it's important to leave your options open. I'm going to get back to the questions now, and I'm going to go on to the next question, which is, I'm going to pass this over to Michael. If someone does arts in UL, can they continue their teaching career in Mary I?
Yes, the PME in Mary I is open to all applicants from all universities. But as Rachel has already said, you do need to realise it's quite a competitive process. And the better the degree you have, the better off you would be. So I would strongly encourage you to think about coming to Mary I, where it is a first-class degree, great teaching, great staff. You won't get lost in the crowd.
That's true. That's great. Thanks, Michael. Patricia, if I could come to you, it's a question about placement. If I am studying a language, including Irish, do I have to do a placement in France or Germany, for those doing French or German, or in an Irish language setting?
Yeah, Rachel, highly advisable if you're doing a language, French or German, that you spend a minimum of 1 semester in a country where the language is the main language of communication. So there you'd have the option. Our recommendation would normally be to study abroad for a minimum of 1 semester in a French, German, Austrian partner university, just to have that full immersion experience, and the fact that you'll be doing, you know, you'll be there as a language learner. You're not necessarily doing your other subject through that language language, but you're there as a language learner. So you're doing like French language modules like translation, grammar, literature, and equally the same with German. So you're there as a language learner. So it's a fantastic opportunity to immerse yourself and to really hone your language skills and to utilize your language skills for the time that you're abroad. And also, you know, it also, as Maeve would attest to as well, it'll meet your teaching council requirements if you are thinking about going on to become a secondary school language teacher in French or German. The fact that you will have spent your 3 or 4 months as an minimum as an Erasmus student in one of our partner universities will mean that you will have met those requirements, the current teaching council requirements for secondary school teaching. Also, for students of Gaeilge, again, highly recommended that you undertake a minimum of 1 semester of a placement in an Irish language immersion environment. There's lots of choice there. You could go to a Gaeilge school or work in an organisation that's actually based in the Gaeilge Talks, preferably. But again, you're going to have that opportunity to spend a minimum of 3 or 4 months, you know, totally immersed in the language. There's no better way to bring on and to hone your language skills. Currently, if you don't undertake a minimum of 1 semester in a Gaeilge speaking environment, you are required to undertake 2 weeks in the Gaeilge Talk during the summer before you come back into 4th years. That's the alternative to not doing a placement in an Irish language setting.
Okay, that's great. Thanks, Patricia. You're off the hook for the next question, guys. I can answer it. If thinking of choosing music as one of my subjects, what level of music should I have? So for those who are interested in taking music as one of their degree subjects, you may have already seen on the website that students complete an assessment during their first week here at MIC if they want to do music. It's not an exam as such, it's an assessment really to see that you have the necessary basic knowledge in order to take music as one of your subjects. The level of music that you would need to be is, if you're taking an instrument like piano, we would talk about grade 5. So around grade 5 or thereabouts. And of course, if you have Leaving Cert music, absolutely, that's at the required level as well. Most people, you'd have to play an instrument or sing, and there would, of course, you'd need some music theory knowledge, so you'd need to be able to read music. But usually students who have an instrument at a grade level 5 are perfectly capable of taking music as one of their subjects. Any specific questions you have about music, Gareth Cox, the head of the department, will be here tomorrow during our session. And of course, you'll get their contact details on the website if you want to email them directly. So the final question that I have here this evening is, if I'm doing a course in MIC, such as arts, am I open to joining clubs in UL? Who wants to take that one? Okay, I know definitely in the past we've had a student of arts who was particularly proficient in a certain sport that was not offered at Mary Immaculate College, and she did get permission to play with the team in the university. In terms of clubs and societies, though, in general, I don't think so. Michael, you might know more.
It depends on the individual club. They can stretch their regulations if you're bringing something to the table. I think they'll be very interested in talking to you.
Yeah, I think it's kind of you'll have to see when you get here, because if the particular club or society isn't available in MIC, then there is quite a good connection between the two institutions. And of course, all MIC students will have access to the UL arena, say, for example. So we do share certain resources in some regards. So it may be the case of waiting to see until you get here and then see what clubs and societies are offered here. And if the thing you're looking for is not offered here and offered in UL, then approaching the club there. I don't have any other.
Sorry, not to interrupt you, but there's nothing to stop them setting up the club or society if it doesn't exist in Mary I. Developing their leadership skills, their teamwork skills, their sense of initiative.
Yeah. And it's a great way to make friends. So, and that's important too. Good point, Maeve. Thanks for that. I don't have any more other questions in the question and answer section, so I'm going to bring this information session to a close. But before I do, I just wanted to remind you about the next session. So tomorrow's session, that's Tuesday, beginning again at 5 o'clock. We will have representatives from psychology, German, music and English. So if you're interested in any of those subjects, tomorrow evening, Tuesday at 5 o'clock is when that session will take place. And again, you'll have the opportunity to ask questions. On Wednesday, again at 5 o'clock, we will be hearing from geography, media and communication studies, drama and theatre studies, philosophy and Gaeilge. And then on Thursday, which is our final evening for the Bachelor of Arts, again at 5 o'clock, we will be hearing from maths, theology and religious studies, French and history. So I hope that you will be able to join us for one or more of those sessions. The best of luck with your studies and with making the very difficult decision of where to go. And just remember, the CAO code for arts in MIC is MI002. Thank you very much for joining us, and I'm going to finish there.